Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, your sanctuary with retreat experts, where we spill the tea on retreat success. Here we dive into crafting transformational guest experiences, talk about how to avoid pitfalls, and unlock marketing secrets. Whether you're a seasoned guru or a budding enthusiast, we've got the inside scoop for you. Join us as we learn how to flourish in this magical world of retreats.
Hey guys, welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. This is the first video we're doing in this season, and I'm doing it with my husband.
Big fan.
A lot of people were requesting for him to rejoin us, or maybe it's just Josh, because do you know Josh?
Yeah, he's my boy. But
Josh all the time is like, I loved it when you guys did it together, and I was like,
see, I don't know if we're starting off on the right foot.
Anyhow, today we are, we're going to record, I think, a couple of episodes by request. Some people gave us some really great ideas. Thank you, Sharon and Jennifer and Josh.
Josh didn't really give us a good idea.
He did. Josh's idea was talk about how we're all a badass, which maybe kind of goes into what we're going to talk about now. We're really going to focus on the overall theme is why you should follow your passion. And as retreat hosts, if it's something in your heart and it's something in your dreams and on your vision board and in your journaling, or just something that is just calling to you, why you should follow that. And it kind of goes hand in hand of how you followed your dream, which was like a crazy ass dream, right?
Yeah. I can't believe it actually worked.
It's so far. It's worked almost 2 decades.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Almost 2 decades now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so both Nathan and I were in corporate America. That was my whole history of work for the first 2 decades of my adult life was in corporate America.
Working schleps.
And listen, I loved it. I loved what we did. We were in what would be called indirect sales. If you don't know what that is, our product was sold by a retailer that was not under our control, and our goal was to get the retailer to sell our product versus somebody else's similar product. And so we did a lot of fun things, if I'm being honest. I mean, look, we took people to the Grammys. We took them out to beach houses and to mountain houses.
We weren't hosts. We worked too. But
yes. Don't get it wrong. We had hundreds of people reporting to us, and we had numbers we had to hit, and there was a lot that went into that part of it as well.
Let's be clear. Like most leadership jobs, it's not the service of the product that you deal with is the hard part of the job. It's the people that you serve, whether they're employees of yours, bosses of yours, or customers of yours. That personal side of is what makes the job so hard, but awesome.
But also is what makes the job work.
I agree.
It's kind of like Nathan and I have been talking about, like, what makes me successful is also what makes me a wreck sometimes, is that my attention to detail is over the top, and it sometimes can consume me.
You're like a broken light switch. You just don't turn off.
I don't, yeah. We're listening to a really great book. We're re-listening to it.
Wait a minute. You're going to confuse people because you just said great book. It's not mine. Like, we all know mine are great, but it's a different book. Just want to clarify.
Yeah, and now I can't remember which one of the books it was, because we just read 10X is Better Than 2X and
Gain Over Gap.
The Gain Over Gap. It was in one of the books. It might have been in both, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because he ties in a lot from one book to the other. Because then we did the who, not the how, right? Yeah. And always the same authors.
I'll link them in the show notes if you're interested.
Great book.
To read.
Not as good, almost as good as mine.
They're really, really good. But I actually lost my train of thought.
The point of that, you don't turn it off. Like, you gotta turn the work button off. So you have work times, and then, quite candidly, you know exactly what you're talking about. And the reason why is because you gave the advice to our daughter last night. It's like one thing I think it's funny. I do this in my speeches.
Wait a minute. I gave her that advice because she's working for someone else.
No.
Yes, I did. I said I wish when I was in corporate America, I had turned it off more. When you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, it's not as easy to turn off.
What's a solopreneur?
Solopreneur. That's when you're by yourself.
Solopreneur.
Yes.
Did you make that up?
No.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, no. And a lot of y'all that are listening are solopreneurs.
Solo.
Single, like by yourself. Solopreneur.
Like
yeah. And so it's harder to turn it off. There was a point with those books, which was really good.
And listen. By the way, I think because this is important as a retreat leader, or we're doing what I do, which is I do the same thing you do, except I do it for corporate.
Yes.
Right. And I show up instead of have to manage all the stuff you have to manage.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
you get to show up and do the fun part and then leave all the details to someone else.
Yeah, but I think I think the point is, whether you work for corporate America or yourself, I get it. Being entrepreneurs, as you know, you and I both know, it's an 80, 90 hour a week job. The point is that regardless, you got to turn the light off
Yeah.
before the bulb overheats, right? I mean, you got to
Yeah.
give your phone time to charge up. And we were just making a statement that what makes you great is your commitment and your whatever the opposite of a procrastinator is.
Remember, that's what I was going to say. In the book, he talks about procrastinators, and you said you could just skip this part.
Yeah, because I explain this to people all the time. I said, my wife, whatever the extreme opposite, I don't mean the opposite, I mean the extreme opposite of a procrastinator is, that's my wife. Like, literally, I tell people, and I don't know if you know this, but I give people a heads up for my own safety and sanity. By the way, I keep hitting the mic, so hopefully it doesn't.
It's going to mess it up, yes.
Um,
So apologize for the sound issues.
Yeah, so I'm like, listen, when we go to dinner, if we start talking about trips or, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, hey, someday we should go do this. And I'm like, you can't do that, my wife, because if you say, hey, wouldn't it be cool with Italy? By the time I get up the next morning, I got a trip booked. And so.
Life's short, y'all.
Yeah.
Life's short.
But I think that well, I almost said craziness. That is not what I was going to say. I think that trigger, that drive, that's what I was looking. Yes, that's what I was looking for. It's what makes the ranch so great, makes your events great, and also I think it's also what makes you a little crazy.
Yeah, and I think you get at some stage or season of your life, if you can recognize it earlier rather than later, it's better. But you get at some season or stage, as I am now moving into, finally, where you just start really narrowing down, and then you have a much more singular focus that also allows for that time for rest.
I just made this up. It's kind of like driving across country in our business, right? You drive to a part where you're trying to pick up all kinds of ideas, and then you start kind of letting yourself drift from a 2-lane highway to a 6-lane highway, and then you're like, holy cow, it's too much, and then and I think it's kind of like, again, I'm going back to the book. It's so funny. It's like nothing you've done, and you've said this 1,000 times. Everything we've done in our careers. I mean, people ask what kind of business we own. I'm like, I mean, what haven't we owned? But everything that we've done, and especially what you've done, kind of led up to this, right? Every little piece did.
It did. I mean, when I think about it, I was in corporate sales. I did real estate sales. I used to own a chain of children's art studios.
Which, by the way, you started a whole idea. Like, you literally.
On a napkin.
I know. We were in a meeting, and I have an idea. I'm like, oh, God, here we go.
Yeah, on a napkin, I did. We successfully.
And then you had the mayor show up for the art. I mean, like, literally went from, hey, wouldn't it be cool if? And the next thing you know, Mayor Meso is always coming. Mayor, right? Isn't that his name?
Mayor.
It was Meso. Yeah, was coming to. I'm like, what is the mayor doing here at an art show? You are a stud.
And then,
you are a stud. Excuse me, not war stud.
And then I went into mental health. And so I did that for a hot minute as far as offering therapy. That was probably the hardest of everything. It was the hardest from my education standpoint. It was the hardest from all of it, you know? And so, and then from there into retreats and self-development. But so, yeah, and so everything has led up to the ranch, though. Because at the ranch now, we do a lot of art at the ranch.
You do a lot of mental.
Which, by the way, I want to add pottery. So we do a lot of art at the ranch.
We're not getting a pottery spinning wheel, and we're not doing another oven. What was it called?
Kiln.
A kiln. We're not getting another kiln.
We are.
No.
So,
we're not.
Art, the mental health.
If you come to Retreat Ranch, you're not doing pottery.
You are.
You might be playing with Play-Doh, but you're not doing pottery.
I love how you said that. So that shit will be
I
ordered
know,
by
you're
the
right.
time I'm
You're right.
finished.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Listen, at the end of the day, whatever you want to do, and Shannon says it's a good idea, it's done. Just for the record. By the way,
can't you just picture a really cool vintage trailer that you walk in and you create something cool? And
you said we were done building.
I did, but this is different. This isn't building.
Yeah, it's building.
No.
And plus, we'd do a cabin, we'd just build another cabin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, but the vintage trailer would look so cool.
Well, I don't know. You got to think about that.
Yeah.
No,
anyway.
But real quick, back to this.
This is how the ideas start, y'all. And the next thing you know, poor Nathan is like, Where am I putting
The still best is the hot tub in the pool. She walks in. It's literally just a stack of trees. Like there's nothing there. It's just there's just a field, not even a field. It's woods.
It's just woods.
And she says, "You know what I see here?" I'm like, "Trees." She goes, "I see a swimming pool and a hot tub and like a play area and a sauna." I'm like, "I see trees."
But what do you see now?
3 pools, a hot tub, a wood burning sauna, a play area,
a cold plunge,
a massage room.
Yeah.
The fact that you can see it and then make me do it all in the same breath, I'm telling you right now.
We're going to have a pottery studio at the ranch, y'all. Anyhow, I love it. I love it. And the thing that I think people recognize in Nathan and I, whether they like it or not, is that when we dream of something or something is on our heart, we fucking do it. Like, life is too short. If we're like, you know what? We don't want to live in this area anymore. Let's move. We pack our shit and move.
We do that.
If we're like, you know what? We want to start a mortgage company, a dry cleaners, art studios, a retreat center. We're like, let's do it.
Hale will be a motivational speaker.
Yeah, that's what he is. If you don't know and you're newer to the show, that's what he does. Large companies will hire him for their events, like big speaker for their sales event, or he does sales and leadership. And so he'll go, like he's doing an event in Hilton for Mexico, for Hilton.
Those guys.
Oh, they're great. And so you have amazing clients. And so anyway, so we literally will dream it and it will sit on our heart. And for me, it's really dangerous because if it sits on my heart for longer than like a day, it's got to happen. Like, it's got to happen. I've got to chase it. And I do. I don't, you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to live with regrets.
You don't do that.
I would rather we do something and fail, which we have.
Well, we do quite often. And by the way,
failing, by the way, to us is still a game.
Learned.
It's still a game.
Yeah, it's a game. It's
an absolute game. We've learned a lot. Oh my gosh, we've learned a lot. We could do a whole show on mistakes.
My next book is Everything You Do, We Did Wrong, which is like an 18,000 page book. But you don't manufacture anything ever anymore.
Yeah, that's true. We manufactured product at one point. We did a digital product. Do you remember Today's Top Agent?
I do.
We did a digital product at one point. We did a physical product. And so, which is okay. Like, seriously, I look back and the moment it didn't feel okay. And I guess that's one of the big points, especially for new retreat leaders or those that are like, gosh, I want to add retreats, but I'm so afraid.
Hey, listen, how many retreats? You've done a few retreats that we lost money on.
Absolutely. But I was trying to calculate the other day. I had a one-on-one with my coach, and I was trying to calculate, which I should know this, y'all, and I'm going to go spend the time to do this. How many retreats I have done since I started. And my best guess right now is it's close to 100, give or take. And so out of that number, I've probably had a solid 5 that have been like awful. Well, and awful being financial. Still gains because I learned so much from the ones. I actually learned more, Nathan, from the ones that quote unquote hurt.
Yeah, here's what I think. I think the especially I think of the one in Central Florida. Yeah. I remember that one. And the reason why I remember that, I think, here's what I do believe. Because the lesson you learned, or you learned it, but we learned it together because that's kind of what we do.
Absolutely. We bounce off each other.
Like, that lesson was way more valuable to us over the next 10, 15 years than it actually cost us. Like, it cost us a really bad 2 days mentally, and it cost us a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
But what we've learned from it has made us tens of thousands of dollars.
At least.
And has made the other 95 events spectacular because we didn't do those key things that took that event.
And we put practices in place from that. So I can think of 2, and I'm just going to say my one international one, not the only international one I've done, but the one we know.
The one.
Yeah. And the reason why I don't say specifically is because there's guests who were on these retreats who were absolutely amazing, and I don't want them to think that
and we're a little famous. You don't want people to.
That's not true. So one international one and one central one that is just in the U.S. And each of them were very difficult for different reasons, completely different reasons. But both of them completely helped me shape practices and things to put in place for the future that ended up making us 10 times more than we wouldn't have if we hadn't learned those lessons. And then just recently, within the last 6 months, we just had another really big lesson that actually in the moment, it was probably the most horrific thing that's happened since I started hosting retreats overall. Horrific, whatever, challenging.
And you look back, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But it seemed that bad
in
at
the
time.
moment.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm grateful. It reminds me of the book. It happened for me, not to me.
Yeah, I was literally getting ready to say that next. Like,
yeah.
We said this is happening for us because
Yeah.
the value we got out of it, quite candidly,
It was amazing.
the things
It is amazing.
The things we changed, things we implemented, and I mean quick.
From that point.
Not only does it protect us in the future in the sense of financially and it's a good idea, but it gave us a sense of peace. Like whatever we were worried about because we didn't do something or
Because we hadn't had
we didn't
experience.
know it yet. Like now we're at peace. Like, okay, we can handle now based off the things we've done differently and this happening for us.
Yes.
Like we can handle it. And this is why I say if you have an event or you recently did an event and you didn't make the money you thought you were going to make, or
ran into a really
challenging issue. My challenge to you is put on your big boy or big girl pants and do it again. It's just like if your kid fell down and playing a game, you say, you get up and you go do it. Like I say this all the time in my speeches.
Because I have to be this person. Yes, lick your wounds for a minute. All of us deserve to have that moment. Just like the other day, I was having a moment.
You got 5. What was it? I gave you 5 minutes.
5 minutes to pout, and I did.
Which was really great because we just heard it in the book. So if we wouldn't have heard that together, and I said you got 5 minutes and get over it, like if you wouldn't have heard that, it would have been terrible for the marriage.
Yeah, but lean into it. Like lean into the fact that there was some suck. Right? There's suckage. Lean into that shit, but then get your big girl, big boy pants on or big they pants, whatever, and get going. Like,
listen, we're going to have to talk about that. Whether it's this show or another show, we're going to have to talk about the turnaround.
Oh, yes, we will.
Now,
why I was pouting.
But I think to that point, I'm challenging you because we've done a lot of stuff that's lost us money, cost us fear and frustration.
Yep.
And my challenge to you is do it and do it. I get it. We're afraid. I get it. We experience this. Then do it afraid.
Just do it. There is a chapter in. So I have 2 published books. One's more for self-development, and the other one's to help teach retreat hosts how to lead retreats. And the self-development one has a whole chapter basically on do it afraid. And it reminds me of when, in the story in the book, is when Paige we went to White Sands, New Mexico, and we were at the top of the hill, and Paige did not want to go down that hill.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Our daughter, our third child in the lineup, 3 out of 4, she did not want to go down this sand hill. It was very, very high.
Which is funny because when we showed up there, we were dragging her 4-wheeler behind the motorhome. So she had no trouble with the 4-wheeler, but didn't want to go down the sand hill.
She did not. She was terrified. And I just was like, but do it afraid then. Do it afraid and see what's on the other side. I'm like, the worst thing that could happen in that situation is you fall on the soft white sand. Do it afraid. And so same thing. The worst thing that can happen on one of your retreats, if you are legally covered, by the way, because you want to make sure you have all your legal documents in place, is that you lose money and you learn some very valuable lessons. That is literally the worst thing that could happen. But on the other side of that, y'all, on the other side of that is so much beauty. Like literally, there's so much to be said, to hold space for people to come and find what they need. And just to create that. It's really beautiful. But there are learning pains. Listen, even if you were to do all the things right, like everything right, you still are going to have some learning pains, especially as you first start anything. I mean, think about when you first started getting on a stage and speaking to people.
I can name 10 or 12 things from changing little things. Like I'd do a speech in the beginning and it would go really well. And I would say one thing.
Yeah.
And
it could be one word.
Yeah. And it was misunderstood. And quite candidly, the way I saw it connecting didn't connect. And it wasn't that what I said was right or wrong. It just didn't land well. So I had to take it out. Well, yeah, that made that keynote maybe less than where I wanted it to be, but it made the next 7 or next 70 or next 700 10 times better. Sometimes it was we did an event and we had a system, we had an activity or something in place that was a bad idea, or we didn't make money. And again, I think
things are exactly what you just said. I love that you said that, because what you experience in the moment that's really hard and challenging and difficult is what makes the next 10, 20, 30 times so much better.
Yeah.
Like it's like our very youngest daughter. She literally will get one lesson, Savannah Banana. She'll get one lesson, a school lesson. Let's call it a math lesson because that's not her favorite. And she's so mad at herself because she doesn't understand it the first time. And it's like, that's like saying we all should learn how to walk the first time we try, or we all should learn how to, like, we should be experts at driving the first time we get behind the wheel.
I'm a pretty good driver.
Or we should be experts at whatever you touch the first time. Like, that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And so you're not going to host your first retreat and be perfect, which there's no such thing, but you're not going to be an expert. You're just not. So you just have to go get your fucking feet wet and do it. Like, do it afraid and see what's on the other side and see what you learn and you gain from it. And it will be a million times more beautiful the next time.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you just rented that house here.
Yes. Here we're in we're on our annual, we go every year to a business building planning trip, just Nathan and I, as our girls go to camp, overnight camp. And so our two girls that are still at home.
I know, I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking. So let me get this straight. Your children leave the house, and then before you leave the house? I know, I'm with you. But
nobody was thinking that. So we go to the beach. Nobody was thinking that. We go away to the beach, and it's my favorite beach, and it's in Texas. But
we don't see the beach.
And we did yesterday for a few hours. And so we've
been sitting.
Oh my God, yes, I know. Okay. We love the beach. I love the beach, okay? He didn't want to come. He'd rather stay at the ranch.
No. I love this. I bet it's so sad. I know when people think we're over here suntan, and we haven't left this room
I don't care if they do think
3
that.
days.
We come here and we
She's a slave driver.
Yeah, we do. But the point is that I just now booked a really giant, beautiful house here for a retreat.
By the way, I was going to make that point.
I know you were.
And so my point being is, like, when you rent this big house for this event, the fear is, holy cow, now you got a $30,000, $40,000 investment, and it's like, what if you don't fill? What if it doesn't show? And at the end of the day, you can't think that way.
Yeah, even as long as I've been doing it, I still challenge myself this way, you guys. So this will be my first Texas beach retreat. Well, let's just be quite frank. Who goes, I want to go to a beach retreat, and they think Texas?
Yeah, not to mention Port Aransas, but by the way, Cinnamon Shores, it's like you took the Truman Show, that little neighborhood, because by the way, that's Seaside, Florida, and you take Seaside, Florida, and you say, hey, let's throw that in Texas, and then surround it with a fence of glory, and put in some awesome pools. I mean, like the environment around this place,
the energy in the environment,
is magical. Like the restaurant we had dinner at last night, we walked from it's in the place.
I think this show's going to be very noisy because my husband can't sit still.
It's not good for me.
And so he's probably smacking the microphone.
I don't think I am.
I'm so sorry. These microphones are super sensitive.
I don't think I am. I don't think you're going to have the noise you think you're going to have.
Okay. We'll see. But yeah, so here I am doing it this long. I could just skate on my laurels and just ride this out. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, you could. You're human. You fit. Listen, this goes back. You couldn't do it because you physically couldn't do it because you just can't stop. You can't help yourself. Now, I will tell you this. It goes back to the same. Our greatest strength is always our greatest weakness. It just, what side do you want to play on?
Yeah. Do you want to focus on the part, what it does to you that's not great, or do you want to focus on, and the more you focus on the good, that's actually what will come to fruition versus the other way. So, because if I spend too much time thinking about what I think about, I could get caught in that crazy cycle, but instead I focus on the fact that look what it's brought for us. Look what it's done for us. Look what I'm able to achieve.
Stay in the gain, not the
stay in the gain, yeah.
And not the gap.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same activity, but if you stay in the part of it, if you appreciate why that behavior and how it does good for you, instead of not focus on the frustration of how that same behavior overwhelms you or whatever it may do.
Yep.
Like stay in the gain.
Yeah.
I
love it. Well, so this is our challenge, just like Nathan was saying. This is our challenge to you. If you are afraid,
and us.
Yeah, it's to us too. I mean, I literally yesterday I was like, "Here's the deposit for this house that I have no idea." By the way, though, just to let y'all know, I did do some polls and some research because I don't recommend, and not in my courses or anybody that I've ever worked with, do I recommend that you just dive off without information. So I just want to put that out there. However, it's still something I've never done. And so I put a deposit yesterday on a very large, gorgeous home here that I'm going to rent, that I'm going to host a retreat at.
By the way, if I could add that, one thing we say is, as business owners, we must be bold and act despite the fear, but not careless.
That's
right?
what I mean.
Not we want to be fearless or act with fear, but not careless.
I love that. Be fearless, but not careless. Yeah. So I guess our challenge is do it afraid.
Yeah.
Like do it afraid. Whatever that looks like for you. Whatever that looks like for you, do it afraid. You're going to be a little bit afraid. I always recommend that you find some comfort in it. So for instance, you're thinking about hosting a retreat. You've never hosted a retreat. And now you're thinking, I want to host a retreat in Costa Rica, but you've never been there. That could be careless because you've never been there. You don't have experience of that area. So find some comfort as you're doing it. Maybe you do it in your own backyard, something close to home, something that you can get to, or a ranch. But do it afraid because you are going to be a little afraid. You might be a lot afraid, a little afraid, whatever it is. Do it anyway.
And here's the one thing I'll throw at you, regardless of whether it's, and I know we're talking to retreat leaders, so but whether you're leading retreats or doing keynote speeches or starting your own business or a lawnmower, whatever it is, seek coaching, seek help. And the reason why I say that, there is not anyone who, I do a lot of sports analogies and principles in my talks, but there's not a professional athlete that doesn't have a coach or seek guidance. So spend that, and you're saying it from someone who's very frugal, but spend that. I know when I got in the speaking business, I hired Joe Calloway. Yeah. And spend that money and get the guidance, and whether it's from a book, a course, a person, an expert, but get as prepared as you can, and then go do it. Leap.
I still have coaches and mentors I work with, and I've been doing this a very long time. I'm a big believer in continuous development. So
do you know the greatest thing we learn in colleges?
Excited to hear this.
How to learn. Yeah. It's the most important thing we learn in all of our schools.
It's more like how to party.
No, it's supposed to be how to learn. Here's the point, though. I've had this conversation with several people. If you stop learning after college, the one thing you're supposed to get out of schooling is how to learn. Learners are earners, and as long as we are learning, we are constantly earning. And this is why you can lose money. You see people who lose millions of dollars or lose all their wealth, and then 2 years later they're right back to where they were. It's because they learn and they earn. And so
I love that. I couldn't agree more. Constantly learn. So, well, thank you guys for tuning in with us today. And thank you for being here. You did. You're not going to get kicked off next time.
It's taking me a year to get back.
Hey guys, go create the retreat of your dreams. Thanks for listening to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. Learn more at www.theretreatranch.com. See you next time.